Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was nearly midnight when Elena finished her late shift at the local Walmart in a small Texas town, one of those sprawling 24-hour locations on the edge of nowhere. She had only been working there for 3 weeks, hired for overnight stocking after moving from Houston to escape a bad breakup. Quiet nights and steady pay seemed like a good idea. That is, until the night she met him. It was slow, like most weeknights, with only a couple of truckers and an old woman drifting through the aisles. Elena was restocking the seasonal aisle when she first noticed the man. He wasn't shopping. He was just standing there at the end of the aisle, staring, not at her, not at the shelves, just blankly, motionless, like he had nowhere else to be. His clothes didn't make sense. He was wearing a dirty white t-shirt and loose pajama pants, barefoot, though it was cold. His hair was matted and thick with grease. Something about him made her stomach knot up. She looked down to scan a box of Halloween decorations, and when she looked up again, he was gone. She didn't see him again until she entered the break room for her 3 a.m. lunch. The lights were dim, motion sensor triggered, and the air smelled faintly of burnt popcorn. As she approached the vending machine, she heard the microwave ding behind her. She froze. No one else had signed in for break, and the room had been empty when she entered. "Elena," someone whispered. She turned so fast she nearly lost her balance. The room was empty. A second later, the door behind her opened with a loud creak. She spun again. Nothing. But something was wrong. Her reflection in the small microwave door was distorted. The face looking back at her had black eyes, hollow black, no pupils, no whites. Her mouth was slightly open, but she wasn't breathing. She backed out of the room without grabbing her snack. She didn't tell anyone. Who would believe her? The next night, the man returned. This time, he followed her. She saw him in the electronics section, crouched behind a display of discount TVs. She heard the shuffling of bare feet behind her in the toy aisle. When she turned around, the aisle was empty, but all of the dolls on the shelves, every last one, had been turned to face her. She reported it to security, but the guards never found anything. No one had seen the man on the security feed. No one else reported him. That's when she noticed a strange pattern. Every time she saw him, the fluorescent lights above her would flicker, just briefly, just enough to cast shadows that moved the wrong way, not the direction she was walking, but toward her. It escalated a week later. She was in the back, unloading boxes in the warehouse. The air was cold, even though the heaters were running. A single bulb swung overhead, casting long, trembling shadows across the shelves. That's when she heard the pallet jack start moving on its own. She turned. It was rolling toward her, no one pushing it, and behind it, walking slowly, the man. This time, his eyes weren't blank. They were wide, unblinking, black like holes punched into a mask. "Elena," he said again, in the same whisper from the break room. She ran, knocking over boxes, pushing past crates. She reached the front of the store, out of breath, frantic, only to find the front doors locked. The automatic sensors weren't working. They blinked like dead eyes. She pounded on the glass, but the parking lot was empty. Then the intercom crackled to life. "Cleanup, in aisle 666, it whispered. There was no aisle 666. She screamed, but her voice echoed through the cavernous, empty store like it belonged to someone else. Her feet moved on their own, toward the seasonal aisle, where she'd first seen him. And there he was. Only now he wasn't standing. He was hanging, upside down, from the ceiling, his body twisted, contorted like a marionette without strings. His face grinned, stretched wide, impossibly wide. The lights burst overhead, sparks rained down. Then everything went black. She woke up outside, lying in the middle of the parking lot. Her arms were covered in long scratches, like she'd crawled through barbed wire. The front doors of Walmart stood wide open. She quit that morning, moved again. She didn't tell many people what happened, just enough to warn them. But every now and then, someone will post a late-night video from that same Walmart. It's always the same, shaky footage, grainy cameras, a man standing perfectly still at the end of an aisle, wearing pajama pants, barefoot, watching. And in the background, just before the video cuts out, the lights always flicker.
Story number 2.
It was an ordinary Friday night when Mark decided to grab a quick snack from the Walmart near his house. The store was nearly empty. just a handful of shoppers wandering aisles or waiting at the registers. Mark always felt a little uneasy at Walmart after dark, but he brushed it off as just his imagination. While browsing the snack aisle, he noticed a young woman about his age standing at the end, staring blankly at the shelves. She was wearing a hoodie that hid most of her face. Mark glanced away, but when he looked back, she was gone. Weird, but maybe she just left. As he moved toward the checkout, Mark saw her again, this time sitting on the floor near the registers, rocking slightly, whispering something he couldn't hear. The fluorescent lights above flickered violently. Customers nearby didn't seem to notice. Suddenly, the store went dark. Emergency lights buzzed on, casting eerie red glows. The woman stood, slowly turning to face Mark. Her eyes were completely black, no whites, no pupils, just empty voids. Mark froze. The woman began to move toward him, her movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet with snapped strings. Her whisper became clearer. "Help me! Help me!" Mark stumbled backward, trying to find a worker or security guard, but the aisles stretched endlessly in the dim red light. The checkout lanes were empty. He ran toward the exit doors, but they wouldn't open. The glass was fogged, like someone was breathing on the other side. Mark looked through, but no one was outside. The whispers grew louder, filling the store with unintelligible voices. The woman was now joined by dozens of shadowy figures, silent, watching, pressing against the glass walls. Their faces blurred and distorted, but all had the same black, empty eyes. The emergency lights flickered again, and in the brief flash of normal light, Mark saw something horrifying. The store shelves were lined not with products, but with photographs of people. Pictures of shoppers, employees, and strangers, all frozen in moments of fear or despair. Suddenly, Mark felt a cold hand on his shoulder. He turned to see the woman right behind him, closer than before. Her mouth opened impossibly wide, stretching into a grotesque smile filled with sharp, broken teeth. He screamed. The light snapped back on. Everything was normal again. Customers returned. Employees moved around like nothing had happened. The woman was nowhere to be found. Mark left the store that night, never to return after dark. And sometimes when passing by, he swears he sees her standing in the windows, silently begging for help, but no one else ever notices.
Story number 3.
Late one chilly October night, a young woman named Lisa was working the closing shift at a large Walmart on the outskirts of a small town. The store was nearly empty, just a handful of customers scattered in different aisles. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, casting an unnatural glow on the endless rows of products. Lisa was used to the eerie silence that settled in after midnight, but tonight, something felt different. Around 11:30 p.m., Lisa was stocking shelves in the electronics aisle when she heard faint footsteps echoing through the empty store. At first, she thought it was just another employee or a customer lost in the maze of aisles. But when she turned to check, no one was there. The footsteps seemed to stop whenever she tried to pinpoint them, only to start again moments later from a different part of the store. Trying to shake off the growing unease, she decided to take a quick break near the customer service desk. As she sipped her lukewarm coffee, she noticed a man standing near the front of the store. He looked out of place, disheveled clothes, pale skin, and eyes that darted nervously, never focusing on anything in particular. Lisa hadn't seen him enter or buy anything, and the checkout lanes were empty. She watched him for a moment, feeling a chill crawl down her spine. Suddenly, the man turned and slowly walked away into the shadowy back aisles, disappearing behind the towering shelves. Something about his movements was unnatural, jerky, almost like he was hiding from something or someone. Minutes later, Lisa's walkie-talkie crackled to life with the voice of the night manager, instructing her to check the storage rooms in the back for a misplaced shipment. Reluctantly, she grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the restricted areas where customers were not allowed. As she moved deeper into the storage corridors, the temperature seemed to drop sharply. The hum of the store's refrigeration units was deafening now, drowning out all other sounds. Lisa's flashlight flickered just as she heard the unmistakable scraping noise of metal on concrete behind her. Heart pounding, she spun around, nothing but empty boxes and cold shadows. Then, from the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of the same man, now standing at the end of the corridor, staring directly at her with an expressionless face. Lisa called out, but the man didn't respond. Instead, he slowly raised a hand and pointed toward the loading dock doors. She hesitated, but decided to follow his silent gesture. When she reached the doors, they were slightly ajar, revealing a dark alley illuminated only by the pale glow of a street lamp. Suddenly, the man vanished. Lisa stepped outside, the cold night air biting at her skin. Just as she turned to head back inside, she heard a blood-curdling scream from inside the store. She rushed back in to find the main entrance locked and all the lights flickering. Her phone had no signal. Frantically, she ran through the aisles searching for help, but the store felt endless and warped, like the layout had changed. Shadows twisted in the corners, and distant whispers echoed through the aisles, growing louder and more frantic. In the electronics aisle, Lisa stumbled upon the man again. Only this time, his face was distorted, as if melting, and his eyes were black voids. Before she could react, he lunged at her, disappearing through the wall like a ghost. Lisa screamed and bolted toward the exit doors, finally managing to pry them open. She ran into the parking lot where a few employees were huddled near their cars, all pale and shaken. One of them whispered about strange things happening all night, items moving on their own, eerie laughter, and shadowy figures lurking just out of sight. Lisa never returned to that Walmart after her shift. The store closed permanently a few weeks later, with rumors swirling about a violent incident and unexplained deaths that were never officially reported. To this day, locals claim that on quiet, moonless nights, you can still hear footsteps echoing through the empty aisles of that abandoned Walmart, footsteps that don't belong to any living person.